Greetings, my little yarnivores, Fiber Spider back again. Today, it's not going to be so much of a tutorial, but more of a tips, tricks, hack kind of thing for when you are doing a rather wide piece on circular needles. In this case, it is a shawl. Now, because my needles are only so long, and you need that many more stitches, you can't quite spread it out to its full extent, right? Everything's all bunched up. And that's fine if you know how many rows you're doing. But if you don't know how many rows, well, then it can be a little tricky because you may not believe it, but this is going to be a triangular shawl. And this here is the top edge. And I have a little diagram here to show you just a little bit better. Now, as you can see, that top edge, this right here, and then you have these stitches that are actually on the needle going down and then up. And so all of these stitches are on the needles right now. So that is a lot of stitches. Therefore, it is rather difficult to stretch out the piece while it is on the needles. So I have come up with a little trick, and I hope that it'll be helpful to you too. Also, this is good not just for shawls, but also if you're doing a blanket, etc. And I'm going to show you how to do it. All right. Okay, so first and foremost, you want to be very, very careful while you're doing this not to let your piece fall off of your needles. If you have stoppers or point protectors, that would be very helpful. I don't have any on hand, so I'm just going to have to be very careful. All right, so being very careful, what you're also going to need is a secondary ball of yarn, preferably in a contrasting color, and a yarn needle. And you don't want to cut the yarn, no, because you want to have a nice really long length and you don't know exactly how much you're going to need. So just unravel a whole bunch and making sure that you have enough of a tail going through your needle so that doesn't come undone either. You want to be careful because you didn't spend all this time working on your project just to lose it, right? So then, quite simply, all you're going to do is you're going to thread your yarn through all of these stitches. Now, because this yarn is going to be that much longer than your cables could ever be, you're going to be able to see just how large your project is when it's spread out. Now, this may seem like common sense to a good number of you, but this is something that I thought of, and I thought, you know what? Hey, pass it on. Pass on the info. Knowledge is power, sharing is caring, and I care, so I'm sharing. So being very careful, being sure to actually get your needle through each and every stitch. You don't want to drop any stitches. No, no, no. You want to be very careful. You can, of course, also use, mercerized cotton. It's a crochet cotton thread. It's a bit thinner. It's a bit more slippery. That might be good, too. This is just what I happen to have on hand. All right, so got through my first couple of stitches there, and they are going to be trapped on this working yarn. Haha. And so I'm just going to capture all of my stitches, being very careful. And the reason why I'm doing this is because the project that I'm currently working on here, I've never done before. So I don't know exactly how many rows I'm going to need. So there is a bit of guesswork involved. And since all of the stitches are on the needles, well, it's kind of tricky to do some guesswork. Now, conceivably, what you could do, although I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, would be to actually bind off and see how big your project is, and then undo the bind off, and as you're undoing the bind off, to recast onto your needle. That, to me, sounds like an anxiety attack waiting to happen. I would really rather not do that myself, nor would I suggest it to anybody else. So that being said, I thought that this would be a nice, safe way of really seeing just how big my piece is. And then once I am done with this, I mean, I'm not going to do this entire thing on camera, but once I'm done with this, I can then spread it out and see just where I'm at. And this is actually the same exact technique, more or less, as the safety line technique, except what I'm doing right now, you wouldn't be casting off the stitches onto another thread. No, you work the thread underneath the stitches while they're still remaining on the needle, so that if you make a mistake, you have that safety line. And I do have a video in my knitting playlist on that if you want to check that out. It's very helpful, especially if you're doing a very complex pattern, especially with yarn overs, eyelets, and cables. Very, very, very helpful, believe you me. So I'm going to do the rest of these stitches off camera, and then I will show you exactly what it is that I am talking about. I hope that sounds good to you, because it sounds very good to me. All right, so I'll be back in a bit. Alrighty, so as you can see, I worked my white yarn through all of my edge stitches there that were on my circular needles. And as you can also see, the circular needles, they would only cover about half of the number of stitches that I had cast on if I wanted to see them stretched out and not quite so bunched up together. So then to continue knitting, all you would need to do is re-thread those loops back onto your needle, being sure not to let them fall off the other side, and then you can keep going. But this, I found, is a really, really great way of being able to see just how much fabric you've actually created without having to guess. Also, this is great because if you never did the project before and you don't know exactly how many rows you're going to need, well, there you go. So if you're doing a rather, wide blanket, or if you're doing a shawl, this is a great way of showing you just where you're at, okay? And also, yes, this is a little bit of a sneak preview because I will be showing a tutorial on how to knit this lovely shawl at a later point. I just want to finish it first, and then I'll show you guys how to do it. So, I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Well, knitting hack, tip, trick, not so much of a tutorial, but hey, I love you guys and I love to share. So listen, if you found this helpful, please hit the like button. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button, because I try to post as often as I can, because I do love doing this oh so much for you guys. So listen, until next time, stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.